We're reviewing competitive results from Magic the Gathering Online, featuring, of course, murders. Did it save standard? These are competitive best of 3 results. Standard challenge 64, February 11th. And the winner is Esper. 3 cut downs, 2 destroy evil, 3 make disappear, 4 deep cavern bat, 4 go for the throat, 3 Denic pious apprentice, 4 Rafines, 4 wedding announcement, 2 wandering emperor, 2 virtue of loyalty, 1 Acklazats, 2 Gix's commands.
Land.
There isn't a single new card. How could this be? Where's the detective synergy? Where's the investigate synergy? How did Alquist Prof not make an appearance? No Shieldred. Shieldred got cut from the deck in favor of more interaction, I guess. I mean, quite honest. And Gix's command. This has to be a nod to the Boros deck. That's what it has to be. This has to be a nod to the Boros deck. But that's the thing, like, look at this deck. It's got 4 go for the throats. It's got 2 destroy evils and 3 make disappears. A Shieldred the Apocalypse is mostly dead on arrival, and if everybody is aware of that, then what's the point of running Shieldred? Remember the dies to Doomblade argument that everybody said didn't apply, you know, because Shieldred's that good? Shieldred still dies to Doomblade. The point was you could actually protect it. You could actually run people out of Doomblades, but it looks like the meta is shifting in a way that you can run more Doomblades than ever. Not a single new card necessary. All right, second place. There's got to be somebody out there unlocking the power. Ooh, I recognize these cards. I know these cards. It's blue, white, control. The best new card in the set for yours truly might just be the best new card in the set, because here it is, the first one that we're seeing get play. 4 freaking lockdowns. That should tell you a lot about the meta. 4 Sunfalls and a farewell. 9 sweepers. No hard counters. No dissipate. No negate. Just no more lies. 4 deluge. 4 wandering emperor. 4 quick study. The marches. This was the thing that I found that gave me the most hope. It really is. 1 Mirrex. Okay. 4 fields. Cool. No Seachrome coasts. No interest in the fast land. I think it's a lot better. I think the fast land is a lot better in best of 1, if I'm being real. The fast land in best of 1 keeps you from taking too much pain if you need to play your spells early. In best of 3, you don't usually need to move that fast, or you're not punished as hard for the pain land because aggro isn't as powerful. Let's see the sideboard. I want the new slogan of the channel to be get mono red. Let's just practice. Get mono red. Get mono red. 4 seed sharks, 3 negates, 4 total 4 knockout blow. Get mono red, and 4 tidebinders, which was a card I was experimenting with in this deck and eventually decided wasn't right for best of 1. Nope, none of the new land. It's literally 4 copies of No More Lies. That's the new card. That's it. The current count is 4 copies of No More Lies. Let's check the next deck. Here comes third place, baby. Dude, we are dripping in new card technology. The 500 IQs have chosen to not acknowledge this set whatsoever so far. There are 2 Tidebinders in the main deck and no Gix's commands. Still no Shieldreds, that's interesting. Guys, remember when the rotation was supposed to like make more like thematic decks possible? I hope they have something more in mind to do that in the near future, because so far, no good. All right, next deck, 4th place. Get mono red. See if I can get kicked off YouTube. All right, does mono red run any new cards? We got 4 frenzies, 4 forges, no Godric's. Blows my mind, actually. A single copy of Squee. I mean, this mono red deck, besides making me wish to vomit, has at least done something different. Festivities, Barrage, Koth, 3 copies, okay. Bolt, Warcraft, Squee, Vampire's Vengeance, and a mountain. That's a mountain down there at the bottom, because mono red just kind of said, brain no worky, no more, out of energy, we're going to put a mountain in our sideboard. I've been watching these results for a long time. It is pretty regular to have new cards quickly show up and make appearances. Maybe not every new card. A card like Preacher of the Schism, I think, took longer to catch on, but you will normally see new cards very quickly. People do want to play with them. If the cards are good, they do show up very quickly on MTGO. The card availability issues of Arena don't actually translate as much to MTGO because MTGO has the rental services. Card Hoarder, not sponsored, but just as one that I knew of, where you can pay a monthly amount and get access to all cards. So usually things move faster on MTGO than even Arena. I would expect good new cards to show up. This much no new cards is not normal. There's only been a few sets, I think, in history that had a bunch of good cards in them and didn't show up on week 1. 4 decks in, 4 new cards, all of them being No More Lies, all of them in one list. Shall we continue? Rakdos! 3 cut downs, 3 bitter triumphs, 4 deep cavern bat, 1 go for the throat, 1 tenacious underdog, 4 inti, Seneschal of the Sun, 4 blood tithe harvester, 4 preacher, 3 Gix, 1 Liliana, 3 arcfiend, 2 sheldred, 2 geological appraiser, a whole bunch of mana. You can play anything you want in standard as long as it's not new.
Sideboard, 2 Duress, 2 Extract of Truth, 1 Brotherhood's End, 1 Aclazotz, 1 Gix's Command, 2 Graveyard Trespasser, 1 Liliana, 1 Path of Peril, 1 Obnixilis, 1 Gix's Command, 2
Cruelty of Gix. Literally a who's who of all the good black cards, a handful of decent red cards, and none of the new cards. Right now we're on 4 copies of No More Lies as the entire, here's new cards that have made the cut. It's blue, black, and we have down here 2 copies of Lazav, Wearer of Faces, and 3 copies of Cryptic Coat. 2 and a blue, enters the battlefield, cloak the top card of your library, then attach the coat to it. Equip creature gets +1/+0, can't be blocked, return it to its owner's hand. And Lazav, when it attacks, exile target card from a graveyard, then investigate. Whenever you sack a clue, you may have this become a copy of a creature card exiled with it until end of turn. What are we turning into? There's Gix, there's Invasion of Amonkhet. Like, looking at the deck, obviously the best thing to turn into is Shieldred, but there's no big hits. It feels like the deck's objective is to turn into things of your opponents, which is interesting. It's almost like they don't run any heavy hitters of their own. It's full on like take out the opponent's stuff. There's 4 Spyglass Siren, there's 3 Ledger Shredder, there's 2 Schooner, there's 4 Bats, and there's 3 Gix. So at its core, it's a Dimir Gix deck. Like, this is the important bits, is that you are playing Gix or transforming into Gix, I would guess. Cryptic Code is good with Gix because unblockability means you're drawing cards. At its core, it's definitely a Gix deck. It's not a new strategy, but it is trying some different things. I'm really curious how often Lazav and Invasion get to turn into things like a Troxa and stuff from the opponent. In Best of One, we get to turn into a Swift Spear. Yeah, that's true. Sideboard, Cut Down, Dreams, Duress, Stroke, Big Old Bat Guy, Hearse, Tidebinders, Glistening Deluge, another Gix's Command, and a Virtue. A whole menu of removal coming out of the sideboard there. I feel like the decks that are doing well really did have a plan for the Boros Convoke deck, because you see Gix's commands in the main that weren't there before. You see sideboard Glistening Deluge, you know? They had a plan. I'm not sure. I mean, it looks like it was enough. They didn't lose to the Boros Convoke deck, but I don't know if it would be enough in like a best of one setting to have a Gix's command. You'd need more technology. All right, anyway, we got at least some new cards in there, didn't we? 7th place, Boros Convoke. We need to talk about this BS. We need to talk about this bull. It's not that it got a bunch of things that change everything. It got way more consistent, right? Gleeful Demolition went from like, the nut draw is Epicure into Gleeful and another 1-drop and a Knight Errant on the same turn into a Recruiter, and you attack for potentially 19. Right? And then they give you Novice Inspector. This little printing. It's basically a reprint, just in a different skin. And now you have 8 ways to have that treasure on turn 1, or that artifact, right? so that on turn 2 you can do the demolition. And now suddenly that draw is happening much more often, much more consistently. And that draw is deadly, but the deck doesn't need it. The deck is just good when you have these 12 1-drops. The Warden of the Inner Sky combining with these becomes a big flying monster so quickly. I know, let's add the bunny. This thing becomes an absolute house so quickly. And there's another new card, one that I actually am pretty proud of myself. I did call that this could be a good card in this archetype. Case of the Getaway Express. I didn't have it in my version. I wish I had. It's really close with War Leader's. It's War Leader's Call is the Anthem / Impact Tremors effect. It's actually much closer than I think I thought, because you get that sweet removal spell and you get a half Anthem. It's very, very strong, right? I think it's a lot closer than I originally thought. I thought originally that the War Leader's Call was Cry, whatever it is way better. And now I think it's really close. It really depends how many creatures you expect to see in your meta, if this is what you need to do on turn 2 some amount of the time, and if so, this can be the better card. I also found that the War Leader's Call also got like tangled in my hand a lot with other 3-drops like the Evangelist, whereas the Case doesn't, it doesn't clog the hand the same way. Notable numbers: 22 land. I ran 23 in my best of 1 build. I would probably take it to 22 now if I had it to do again. I like the Thram portals. I got a lot of comments on why Thram portal. It's because you can't afford to mulligan and you don't have many untapped lands. Sundown Pass kind of scams you. The creature land scams you. Thram portal scams you in a different way, and it can lead to your best curves actually working out. One each of Sokensen and Iganjo I don't really like for best of 1. It makes your worst draws really, really worse. I like the portals instead. Sideboard and the festivities for the mirror. They're already preparing for the mirror. Destroy Evil, Invasion, Barrage, Invasion, up to 4 invasions, Lantern, Flare. X damage to target creature or planeswalker. You gain X life. X is the number of creatures you control. I mean, depending on how you count invasion is like disruption. Everything else is removal. Look at all the removal in the sideboard. So post board, there's no way this, like, there are many matchups where a lot of this comes in. They're just trying to sideboard like the perfect amount of removal depending on the type of opponent you're playing against. I wonder if they take out the Case. I'd be really curious how a deck like this would sideboard. It feels like the things on the chopping block are probably the Case and the bunny, and you just sideboard in the perfect removal and or Invasion of Gobakhan. Maybe Invasion only comes in on the play. Let's check out 8th place. The card we need to craft is, Cryptic freaking Coat. 1 copy in, do I say this right? 1 copy in Soldiers? Is this even Soldiers? Hold on. There's 4 veterans, 2 recruitment officers, and 2 wardens. 4 resolutes, 4 sentinels, 2 harbins. I guess it counts as Soldiers? I can't believe Cryptic Coat in Soldiers. Like, why is playing this better than other options? The 3-drops in general here are spicy, right? It's 2 Tidebinders, a Lauren, a Cryptic Coat, 4 announcement you expect. Virtues in this deck, making knights not soldiers. They do still run the Beachhead. I guess it's still Soldiers. They also believe in 2 Otawara, 2 Iganjo. They believe in make disappear instead of no more lies, which makes sense when you have a bunch of creatures, I think. It's probably why it's 8th place. 8th place in a 64-player competitive challenge is really good. Yeah, this is not the Soldiers you're necessarily used to. Definitely inspired by Simon Gertson's top 8 run at Worlds. Just the 1 new card, the Cryptic Coat. We're trying out 1 Whittle new card. And in the sideboard, Destroy Evil, Get Lost, Invasion of Gobakhan, Lantern Flare, Expel the Interlopers, Protect the Negotiators, Tokasia's Welcome, Tidebinder, Wandering Emperor, and Vanquish the Horde. This deck sideboards in 2 sweepers potentially and Expel the Interlopers and Vanquish the Horde. That's pretty intense. That tells you something about your meta. So 1 new card, Cryptic Coat. That's your top 8. All right, 9th place. 9th place decided to show up. Let's see. 4 Novice Inspector, 4 Spyglass Siren, 4 Gleeful Demolition, 4 Volduran Epicure, 4 Experimental Synthesizer, like they are all in on the Gleeful Demolition and the artifacts, 2 Voltage Surge, 4 Schooner, 4 Disruption Protocol, a Cryptic Coat, 4 Zodic Glyph, 3 War Leader's Call, 4 Public Thoroughfare, When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you tap an untapped artifact or land you control. Add a mana of any color. This is so weird. So it doesn't have Warden of the Inner Sky, and it doesn't have convoke anything. I mean, obviously they're trying to glyph, right? They're coming at you with the 5/4. Everything's like an artifact except for the Gleeful Demolition, the Surges, the Protocols, and the glyphs themselves, and I guess the War Leader's Call. That's so many artifacts. Holy cow. That's pretty bizarre. End the festivities, destroy evil, Calpackle, Litho Barrage, negate Iconoclast. All right. So what's the new cards? War Leader's Call, Novice Inspector, Cryptic Coat. I mean, at least there's 3. I think. Oh, and Public Thoroughfare. That's a record for new cards in a deck in the 9th place list. This deck kind of cool. It's kind of cool. All right, we're looking around. So in 10th place, we had Boros. In 11th place, we have Toxic. No new cards. In 12th place, we have Esper with Cryptic Coat. What is this? All right, let's check out this 13th place list. What has we got here? No green in top 10, but we have green in the top 13, baby. Somebody brought green. Look at what the heck is this stuff. Have a minute, guys. Take a minute. What is going on? 4 Cabaret Courtyard, 3 Broker's Hideout. So immediately you know this deck is not like the others. I got Fading Hope, Negate. We got 4 Pranksters, 2 Galvanic Iteration, Scrutiny, 4 copies of Rage. All right. X damage to any target. Sorcery speed. Put X lands from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Aww. 4 copies of Spelunking. Aww. Then we got 3 Deluge. 4 Ill-Timed Explosion. Draw 2 cards. You may discard 2 cards. When you do, X damage to each creature where X is the greatest mana value among cards discarded this way. Kind of a sweeper. 1 Burn Down the House. 4 Kellens. Investigate, you may play an additional land. Flying Vigilance, 3/4 attacks, destroy up to 1 artifact. If you control that permanent, draw a card. I mean, when you look at this, you're like, oh, you have to have a decent sized card to discard to blow everything up, right? This deck doesn't care. This deck has no decent sized cards. Like the most it's going to deal is 5 if you hit the 1 Burn Down the House, 4 if you hit the Memory Deluge or the Kellen or another explosion. It's most likely to deal like 2 damage. That's a lot of sweepers? No, it's not. There were 8 in other decks in this top 8. Even the aggro decks seem to have sweepers. Let's see the sideboard though. End the festivities, Stroke, Mastermind, 3 of. Pick your poison. New card, Brotherhood's End, negate Warcrafting. Isn't this a deck? I mean, the World Souls Rage makes you wonder. It can go face? How many basics are in the deck? Oh wait, no, it has to fetch basics. I was gonna say they can fetch these new lands, but they can't. They have to fetch basics. There are 13 basics. Lucky 13 for 13th place, huh? Is this deck sweet or insane? Does it work in best of 1? And what do you use Galvanic Iteration with? You use it with the Rage because you pull out the sack lands and then you pull them back out again? Dude, I don't even know. I don't even know. Is blue worth it? There's 23 blue cards. It's mostly blue deck. I can't. Oh my God. Man, blue is a good color. Blue is a good color. Let's talk about new cards we saw in top 8s today. All right, I think this was it. I think this is all. All right, if I had told you before the stream that 6 cards from the new set would make it into decks, would you say that was good or bad? Into the top 8 of a competitive event. How do I feel about it? It's not so much the number 6 to me, it's the types of new cards. So 3 of these are from 1 deck. This is technically a new card, but it does not feel like a new card. Does that make sense? This is a new type of card. It's Case. This one at least was pretty interesting to evaluate. Feels a bit like a new card. I'm okay with this. By the way, how about 3 of these being uncommon? If you're looking at buying boosters for the set, this is common. 1 common and 2 uncommons. You can just craft these, right? War Leader's Call. I mean, this is a very powerful new aggro card. So this in the list doesn't feel bad per se. It is frustrating that it's 3 cards in 1 deck, but that deck doesn't feel Murders at Tarkov Manor themed, right? It's just a brutally efficient aggro deck that existed before and has some little upgrades, right? That's frustrating. Then we have Cryptic Coat. This is an interesting card I guess I have to play with. Maybe it's better than I thought it was. Lazav? I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure Lazav should be in the deck. Like, I'm still not convinced on Lazav, but we'll play it. It had almost no Lazav synergy. The deck was not a Lazav deck necessarily, right? All right, I gotta be honest, this seems like a low impact set. If its claim to fame is that it took Boros Convoke from a B tier deck to an S tier deck, that's not, in my opinion, a successful Magic the Gathering set. They shouldn't be grabbing like an archetype that's just trying to be the most brutal, efficient, get the game over curve as soon as possible and taking that up tiers. Like, if that's all a set does, that's very frustrating to me. And did No More Lies make blue-white control that much better? It's good, but I don't know if like was that a need in the format. And I think that is a very questionable thing. I think the blue-white resurgence is mostly a response to being able to play 8 sweepers, 4 lockdowns, and 4 sunfalls, 9 sweepers, add 1 farewell, and just totally trounce a new S tier deck in Boros. I think that's all it is a reaction to that meta. And as soon as mid-range finds the answers to that Boros deck, blue-white will be just dead in the water again, because mid-range is so good at beating up blue-white, and I don't think No More Lies will save it. So I don't think No More Lies will have a long-term impact that is like somehow meta-defining, though it will get played. Lazav, I'm super cynical of Lazav, but I bet Lazav is a lot better in a ramp meta if ramp rises to the top again. Ramp has to now answer Boros, which is a good thing. I want ramp to be challenged, but I don't know what that will actually mean for the format, because I'm sure ramp can find something to do. They'll play lockdowns, they'll play as many depopulates as they have to, and then we'll see if they can compete at the top end with what other decks are doing. But it doesn't feel like a fresh meta yet. The good news is that there is a Pro Tour coming up in Chicago in just under 2 weeks, and it's going to be the first time that they did a standard Pro Tour within the same month as a new set being released and legal in standard in years. And that gives me a lot of hope, because if the best players in the world can figure out some cool, unexpected, spicy stuff, that will really add a lot of the kind of love back to standard, back to the format that I know I loved for so many years. And I'm really looking forward to watching that Pro Tour and seeing what comes out of it. If the Pro Tour doesn't release anything new, then I think we can put an official fork in the format and say, yeah, we're just, I guess, waiting for the next set to see if it shakes anything, and then the next set to see if it shakes anything, and then rotation to see if rotation shakes anything. So far, I would say Murders is not providing any of what I hoped would happen to the meta, and I hope I'm wrong and that the pros can prove me wrong. So that's my take. That's my YouTube video. Thank you for watching. You're cool.